Arguments between couples can often lead to feelings of hurt and anger. But resolving conflicts doesn't have to end this way. Let's talk about that and much more here on this episode of Couples Pursuit Live.
Couples Pursuit.
Hello, this is Vincent
and Valerie
Woodard. And on this episode of Couples Pursuit,
we're going to talk about how to resolve conflict in your marriage without hurting each other.
Exactly. Look, we're so glad to have you here with us on Couples Pursuit. Our goal is to give you the tools necessary to pursue and maintain a successful marriage.
Yes.
So if you're new, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. We urge you to share this video with someone else that you know that might be interested in this topic, and also smash that like button.
Yes.
So baby.
Yes, sir.
Too often we hear couples just accept the fact that this is how we live in the space. We resolve arguments, we fuss, we fight, we argue, we yell.
This is what happens.
And this is
you
what happens.
disagree.
This is how you fight.
You fight, you make up, you come back together.
How to resolve the conflicts in our marriage without hurting each other. What's your thoughts on that?
It took us a long time to figure that out.
Long time.
But once we figured it out, boy, did it change things forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I urge you to tune in, lean in, because we're going to share 3 tips that I believe if you just start with just these 3, there's so much more with unraveling. You know, when you're arguing, you have to build empathy to care about how the other person's feeling. You have to have emotional connection. There's so many things, but I believe if you start with these 3, I believe you're on your way to actually get to the point where you don't even argue anymore. You don't even fight. This is not the normal mode of operation.
Right. For some people, it is. It's like at the moment, the very second there's a hint of disagreement, a hint of tension, walls go up immediately. And so our desire is for you to experience fruitful marriage, fruitful relationship where you don't argue. You may have disagreement about something, but you don't allow that disagreement to take you to a place of war, with one another.
And
being
it felt like
odds
that.
with one another. Yeah, that tearing each other apart, emotionally or whatever. That gap in time again, that wall that comes up when you disagree, and all of the things in between that you have to get through to get back to one another.
Yes.
That dead space that you have between the time that you disagree and whoever decides to make up makes up. Or if you don't verbally make up, you just come back together again physically and then act like nothing happens. I know that sounds weird, but people do that all the time.
And it sounds weird, and it sounds so weird to some people that it's normal. It's like, okay, well, that's how we do.
Right.
And man, a little bit about us. We're going to always keep it 100. We're going to always keep it real. And we lived in a space, like my wife said, for so long.
Oh my gosh.
And got to the point where I would say the epiphany, but it was like the rock that fell on my head of how much time that we lost.
So
just
ridiculous.
In that space of, okay, we argue, it blew up, it escalated, and now how we're trying to make something abnormal normal.
We made it normal. It became our norm. Dysfunction was the norm for us.
Yes.
When it came to disagreements, we shared in a previous video how I shared, it was the one that came up, a memory, about a year or so ago. We shared about how we used to disagree, and it was just such a normal thing for us to come together and bump heads, and then it took us forever to get back together. It was like a dance, and it didn't happen all the time. With us, what I shared in that video was like 98% of the time it was great, but there was this 2% of the time it seemed like, and that's my assumption. I really don't know what the variables are, but But that 2% of the time when things would blow up, it would spill over for, far into the relationship. And, the foolishness and the immaturity that, was expressed in those moments. I mean, gosh, we really did waste so much time trying to correct one another and direct one another and protect ourselves.
Yes.
That we didn't realize, we're in this together. Mm-hmm. We're not enemies, and I would try to say, I would try to relay that sometimes, but we just didn't. He talks about the rock falling on his head. There were times when I was out of order. There were times when he was out of order. And it just did so much damage. And I thank God we were able to repair that, which is why we're so passionate about sharing what we share with you, because many people still live that way and come to the place where they feel like it is the norm. Yes. Or to the point where they don't even talk about it anymore. It happens. They might go and vent to, a friend or a relative, or unfortunately for some people, they go outside their marriage.
Wow.
Different things happen. And it's never resolved. And people will say, well, that's just how it is. And it's not. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that way.
I used to say for so long that we used to argue about how to argue. Mm-hmm. And I still feel that way. But the deeper level of it, I believe that we argued because we're losing connection. We know that we're disconnected. Mm-hmm. And it was a sever, Mm-hmm. But I know a lot of couples spend a lot of time in that space where you actually will argue about how to argue. We're not even agreeing on the ground rules. Because in my mind, I truly believe that you're supposed to argue. Yeah. It does get escalated. That was
his belief. This is what people do. This is how it happens. And what was my standpoint? What was my viewpoint about that? Do you remember?
Well, what I've got was it doesn't have to be that way, and we definitely don't have to be that way.
Right.
We don't have to live in a space where, even though it might seem normal to people, it is not normal.
Well, you just that's what happens when people get mad. They say things they don't mean. No, not mature people.
That's true. I haven't had a conversation with a close relative of mine talking about this topic, and he was like, man, I love y'all's show. I love your podcast. Because we're on podcasts also. Yes. Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music.
Say it loud, baby.
Google. But I said, I love your podcast, I love your show. But man, I don't really agree with the fact that we're not supposed to argue. I was like, wow. I said, what you would expound upon it? Because some people can't call an argument a disagreement. And I believe there's different. I believe there's a difference. But he went to the fact, sometimes you just got to get your point across. I said, bruh, I lived in that same space. Like, you think you got to get all your point across, you got to say it loud, you got to back them down, and you got to get them off for you.
Better know who's in charge.
No, don't work.
A house divided against itself will not stand. What we have to realize is that whether we acknowledge it or not, the institution of marriage is God's creation, and He designed it so that we would become one. And whether we accept it or not, once you become intertwined with a person, mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually, you spend that time together and you become bonded in matrimony, you are entangled with them. You can't just just separate and you're apart forever. If something happened now or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, we would still be connected in some ways that will never change. And so what happens if it's like, if he and I are one and we're having a disagreement or then having arguments about what's going on, and I'm beating on him emotionally, he's beating on me emotionally, it's ridiculous. If we're one person, we're only harming ourselves. So to say, well, I have to get my point across, well, I'm gonna make sure I give him a piece of my mind, I'm gonna make sure, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, what are you really doing? What should you be doing? How does that build you?
You remember for so long, Dr. Keisha, hey, how you doing? Hey, Tabitha, how you doing? You remember for so long, when we got to the point where, you know what, this is not working out with us. We're arguing, we're fighting, we're just disconnected, and we don't seem like we don't see the way back. You know, it's like my heart is so hard that I accepted that this is just how it's going to be, and you accepted that no, this is not the way it has to be. And so we even talked about, when you talked about so connected and pulling apart, we knew that our lives would be so overlapped because we had children together, that we wanted to have a therapist. We wanted to go to therapy to get separated or get divorced, right, to
figure out how to function after the marriage was over, because we knew that we still have to deal with each other. And everything about him that irritated me and vice versa was still going to be there, especially when we had to deal with our children and we're in separate homes. How we're going to manage the time. We would have to talk about it even more. And these are things we don't realize. And then what happens, unfortunately, is we go to our separate corners, and the children have to deal with the foolishness and the immaturity of the parent who don't always, some parents do talk about the other parent in front of the children, unfortunately, but who don't always say things, but they emote their tension and their angst and their disdain for the other parent in the presence of the child. Or they're on the phone and they think that they're being quiet. Girl, well, you know what he did this time, and he ain't no good, and and that's right, I said ain't no good because that's how we talk sometimes. And the children hear that, or they feel that, and then they have to go over his house, and then they have to come over to my house. So it's like, how are we going to work this out? Because it's not over just because you don't live in the same house anymore.
That's true.
It doesn't go away.
That is true, baby. I said at the beginning that we're going to talk about 3 points.
Okay.
I actually have 5 points.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so first one is don't take things personal.
Ooh.
I lived in this space. Every criticism... Well, okay. I'll take that back. Concern. I called it a criticism. Every concern from her was a criticism to me. It was a complaint about me.
An attack. Why are you attacking me? Yes.
It's, the filter, it went right through that filter. It was a concern. If I didn't like something, for her, it was something that I want to talk about. I want to get to have a better understanding about. Even the things that I did, the way I react. Well, why do you act that way? Well, what's wrong with me? Why
are you attacking me? I used to get that so much, and I'd be like, I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to tell you how I feel about it. And what came across was, to me, he wouldn't say it, but what I felt was, you don't have a right to the way you feel. And how dare you tell me you don't like something that I'm doing? What's wrong with you?
Wow.
I'm a good guy. Now, he did say that.
Yeah.
I'm a good man. And yes, he is. He checks a lot of boxes. But when it came to sensitivity and him being able to control his temper and that place of vulnerability that he had with, you mean I'm not doing everything right? I'm doing the best I can to do everything right. And whatever I said, it was saying to him, it was like me getting in the street with a megaphone and going, you know what? You ain't nothing, and you ain't never gonna be nothing. That's what it felt like on the inside to him. And I'm like, no, I'm just telling you, I don't like it when you raise your voice to me. Don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
How dare you tell me what to do? And I'm like, well, this is not gonna work.
Yeah. Because I'm going to have a complaint. We're human beings. Everything you do is not going to be...
Yes, you are not that wonderful, and neither am I.
Exactly.
Neither am I.
Exactly. Don't take things personal.
Right.
Number 2.
Yes.
Look, be honest with yourself. That you know what you take things... That you take things personal. You know the kind of person that you are. You know something that you haven't really expressed, to your spouse, how you feel. So when they're confused or they're angry or they're trying to figure out, I don't understand what you're talking about. Don't look, be honest with yourself. Did I give him or her all the information? Did I take it a little bit too far when I rebutted back?
Yeah. And what's under that? Sometimes we will respond in a certain way, and it is defensive. And when you become defensive, you know it.
Yeah.
Now, you may be so used to doing it. Just like he might say, well, is that the shirt you're going to wear? What you mean? What's wrong with this shirt? Now, I know I put on 4 different tops because I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to wear. Maybe I've gained a little weight, and I have. And I feel insecure about that. So I get angry with him, and he's saying, is that the shirt you're going to wear? Because it has a stain on it. He hasn't even been able to get that out. Because I'm like, how dare you? You know, I'm feeling like I have to cover myself. And then he has to try to filter through all of that, or he just goes away, and it's like, well, I can't say nothing to her.
Yeah.
You know?
And we're so quick to sometimes point the blame at somebody else to say, well, if you would stop doing this, then I'll stop doing that. And if you would, you know, you only can focus on your own reactions and your own actions, your own, what you give out, and then how you respond to what was given to you.
Absolutely. And then you have to, I want to go back to don't take things personally for a moment, because sometimes what they're saying doesn't have anything to do with you. Like, maybe it's an issue that they're having. So you need to dig a little deeper. If she says, well, I don't like the way you talk to me, don't just go automatically, what you mean? And just get defensive. Well, give me an example. What is it? What is it what did I say?
Exactly.
And okay. Well, I didn't mean anything by that, but how did that make you feel? And why, you dig into that and find out, because she may come from, or he may come from a household where things were dealt with differently than the way they were in your household. Your household may be loud and boisterous, and that's what one person is used to. And the other one may be really quiet and passive, and that's what they're used to. Like, you hear people talk about, I never heard my parents argue. Well, it doesn't mean that they didn't do it.
Exactly.
It just means they didn't do it in front of you. So what is the example, and what does that say to you? So it's not always that their pain is invalid. It's not always something that you've done directly. And if you love them and care about them, then you want to find out what's going on so you don't have that issue anymore.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
And it's number 3. The one was don't take things personal. Number 2 was be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Know you and what triggers you.
Yeah.
Number 3, talk about your feelings.
Ooh,
Now, to go back to a point that you said. You said, well, your spouse could say, well, you always do that, and you always do that. Well, hold on. Let's slow it down a little bit. Let's talk about what I'm doing now, and let's explain how either that's making you feel, or not making you feel. I can't make anybody feel anything, but how that's affecting your feelings,
right? And
how you're treating me, how you're yelling or whatever, you left and you walked out or whatever, how that has impacted me. I want to talk about this moment right here. Let's talk about these feelings, because right or wrong, your spouse has them.
Right.
We can't diminish them. We can't say you shouldn't be feeling like that. I don't understand, because for real, I lived in that space for so long. Well, I don't understand why you're feeling that way. But I don't feel that way. That's not me. Why are you feeling like you shouldn't have felt that way?
Y'all, I'm trying to tell you. That's a tough space to be in, because here it takes, for many people, it takes a level of, I'm pretty easy with sharing how I feel, right? Communicating. But for some people, it takes a level of strength and I don't know what the word is, but it takes a lot for them to be able to say, you know what, I feel this way. And then if they tell you how they feel and you shoot them down and you tell them you shouldn't, and I don't know why, you immediately become defensive, then what you do is pile on top of the pain. You pile right on top of that. Shut up. Be quiet. Nobody cares how you feel. All of that gets pressed down, and either you become quiet, or you become angry, or you become indifferent.
Exactly.
To it. A lot can happen. And then that creates other issues in the relationship. And let's say, for instance, because I assumed many roles. I wore many hats before we figured that out. I tried being quiet. I tried, communicating with you. I tried keeping it quiet. I got loud. I got angry. And none of it worked. None of it worked. I just had to say, you know what? I quit. I'm checking out because nothing I'm trying is working. And I bring that up to say this: just because your spouse is quiet or they accept your behavior does not mean that your behavior is acceptable.
Exactly.
It doesn't.
Exactly.
It doesn't. And so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, get to a point where you can actually learn how to express your feelings in a calm way.
Right.
Because, again, my wife said something earlier, and we can spout out those catchphrases that you know are going to bring up so many more questions. Yeah. You always do this. Every time this happens, wait a minute, every time.
Or hurtful things like, you so weak, you so sensitive. Every time I turn around, oh, what's wrong with you now?
Yeah.
You know, those kind of things that really are deflecting. And it is irresponsible to never take responsibility for what we do. We know what's hurtful. We know what's respectful. We know what's gonna, add fuel to the fire. And unfortunately, for some people, that is a defense mechanism that they use to get the attention off of them, and that is abusive. That's what they call gaslighting. It's like it's, for instance, if you say to me, why'd you leave your wet clothes on the floor in the bathroom? What are you talking about? I didn't leave my clothes on the floor in the bathroom. Yes, you did. Yeah,
they're trying to make me feel like I'm crazy, like I'm stupid. Like it didn't. It's not really that serious.
Yeah, that never happened. And what about you? You always do such and such and such, and you make such a big deal out of everything. And it's like he doesn't have a chance to tell me how he feels about what I've done, or even to say, babe, well, you did this. The response should be, oh, I left my clothes on the floor. I'm sorry, babe. I'm going to go get them right now. I apologize. I was in a hurry. But instead of doing that, pride and ego gets in the way. How are you going to tell me something about myself? Exactly. What about all the things that you do? And it just creates this mountain of foolishness that is so counterproductive. And then you miss all the good stuff in between.
Exactly. Right? That actually came from a movie, that term gaslighting. It was a movie, I think it was called Gaslight, where the guy was trying to do something to make the lady seem like she was crazy. So every time she hears something or heard something or seen something or whatever, he always disputed it. You're hearing things. Yeah. Are you sure you're okay? Or you're right? Yeah. And we use that in the term sometimes in a relationship where a husband or wives we're trying to deflect the blame off of them. Like, you sure? No, that didn't really happen. That's not how it happened. That's not. So anywho, that's good. My fourth one is ask for help from those who have been where you are and overcome. Yeah. Now look, getting help from your friends and your family can help your relationship, but it can also hurt and amplify the criticism that's going on. It can also amplify the conflict that's going on, especially when you ask for help or you are talking and sharing with someone that's single, is not really married or even in a relationship, and they're your yes man, they're your hype man. I say hype man, could be a man or a woman, but I've done this. And I found myself, it's like, wait a minute, they're saying yes to everything I'm saying. Like, I'm right. And I'm saying,
you're not right.
I'm not 100%
No
right.
one is.
And I'm talking to this person, and they're like, she should be glad. She should be thankful. I'm like, okay, all right.
I should be glad.
Yeah, I shouldn't have yelled. I shouldn't have walked out. Right. I shouldn't have got whatever. We're not going. Okay, I went to a therapist because it got to a point where I felt the slipping coming, like slipping to the point of this is getting seriously close to a separation. Like we're emotionally separated. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do right this. Now. And I think one more fault, one more vibration in the fault can break it. So I went to a counselor just for me, a therapist counselor. I don't know which one it was, and they even said they even was like agreeing with me. I'm telling myself now, I didn't go to psychology. I didn't take all that. I did take a course, but I know enough to know that I'm not 100% all right.
And it was the female counselor. And I was like, wow.
So ask for help from those that have been where you've been and overcome. We offer services. We're marriage coaches, and we are not therapists. No, but we'll mentor you. We're mentor you and help you get to a point where give you some good ground rules. And we're developing some courses, and we're developing some things right now that are going to be able to help you. You're going to be able to take advantage of. Yeah. And I urge you to actually you book a call with us. I'll share that with you at the end of the video. But get help from people that you know can help the couple, the marriage. Sometimes you might have to do individual if the other spouse is not willing to, go to counseling, not willing to go to coaching, not willing to participate. So sometimes you have to just, hey, I'm just got to go for it.
But that works. Yes. Believe it or not, you can begin to improve your relationship from the inside out. You don't have to drag that person along. And think about it, whether it works out or it doesn't work out, you'll be better for it in the end, because you need to get rid of the baggage that you're carrying of the dysfunction. And when your spouse sees you start to change, they don't have any choice but to notice it. They do have a choice to respond, to come along, or not to. But whether they do or don't, it's still good for you to get yourself to a good place. And that's also true. To your point about asking for help from others, one of the reasons why, and it maybe it goes without saying, but one of the reasons why you don't want to just call your mom or call your best friend or talk to your guys or talk to the nice lady at work, if it's a male to a female and a female to a male, you want to be careful about crossing boundaries. And people who love you, when you come to them and tell them that someone has hurt you, you go back home and you guys can make up. Yeah. That person has that story. This is the picture they have in their mind. No, he didn't. He said such and such and such. And with the exception of violence and abuse, they have every right. Oh, violence and abuse is the exception to feeling that way. But other than that, couples go through ebbs and flows, and they go through changes, and we can talk to one another. He knows me in a way that the friend doesn't know me. And vice versa. And so they may not be able to let go and be objective. And some people really like drama. Yeah. And some people are jealous.
And when you get over it, they might not get over it. So now it's always at the family reunion, at the gathering, at the football game with the kids, the basketball games.
Yeah. And they don't really need to know all the ins and outs of your, If you have one really good friend that's like or a mentor that's like someone that's like a prayer partner or an accountability partner, there are some things that you should be able to share. But you have to be careful about that.
Exactly. Yeah. So the last one is to avoid arguments that can pull triggers. Ooh. So sometimes you find yourself trying to defend yourself. You felt attacked. For whatever reason. And now you respond in manners of criticizing your spouse. You respond in matters of controlling behavior. Like, get off. Didn't I say get off me? Yelling, trying to back them down, trying to make them be
punching quiet. Punching a wall.
Yeah, storming off. Storming feet, stomping. Oh, he mad.
Slamming.
Oh, he mad.
He big mad.
Yeah, emotional blackmail. Like threatening to leave. If you keep talking,
see, right, you're gonna end up by yourself, and don't nobody want you but me. And these kind of things, that borderline gets into being abusive. But yeah, just being mean.
Exactly.
Just being mean. It's like being big children on a playground, being big bullies. And what I'd like you to think about is if you overheard your two children arguing in the way that you and your spouse are arguing, would you go in and say, listen? Would you go in and break it up? Would they get in trouble? Go to your corners. Don't you ever let me hear you talk to your brother or sister like that. Yep. I used to do this thing where I make my kids get in one shirt, put one arm in, or hold hands, sit in the chair.
My shirt wasn't.
Probably. And tell each other one thing you love about each other. And they hated it. But I didn't tolerate them fighting in my presence. I hated that. Yes. Hated it.
And they still grown children. They're grown-ups now, and they have a really close bond. But they might get on each other's nerves still, but they still have a close bond.
They do.
And
did we talk about that? Disrespectful language.
Oh,
yeah. Well, people that's what they do when they get mad. Mm-hmm. No, you don't curse me and call me out of my name because you're angry. Mm-hmm. We have to be, or even if it's not cursing, if you're saying, calling each other things like fat, ugly, stupid, ignorant, dummy, crazy, that's triggering, especially for people who may have mental health issues. To then call them crazy is really not a proper word to use anyway, because that's what's associated with people who have mental health, and we have to be mental health issues or behavioral health issues. We have to be careful about that.
And that it's an issue that they're dealing with, the struggle that they're dealing with. They're dealing with anxiety. You say, why are you so scared? You're so scared. They're dealing with, self-esteem, and you call them, fat, or you look bloated, or, I say avoid arguments that pull triggers. It's a trigger.
It's going to upset them. You just like your daddy, and he doesn't like his father, and he doesn't want to be anything like his father, or you just like your mom, and vice versa. It's If
you take heart to what we're saying here, how to resolve conflicts in your marriage without hurting each other. That's the goal. Is that we want to resolve I'm not giving you a blueprint to argue.
Right.
We're not even getting to the point of argument. We're talking about when something comes up, because it's going to be something. If you live together long enough, there's going to be something that comes up that has to say, hey, well, you said this, or you might have thought that, or you might have acted this way, and I got a question, I got a concern, I want to address it, and it could be, tension. I had one of my phrases to my questions, I was saying, avoid arguments that cause you pain. My wife said, you can't avoid pain, because it's always a possibility that you could get hurt when you're talking about a sensitive issue. And so the Lord just revealed, avoid arguments that pull triggers, because that's really what the goal is, to avoid that. Let's not have those issues where it's okay for me to throw darts at you. The world has enough of them out there to throw at you. We definitely don't need that in our home.
And can I just clarify, when I said avoid things that cause you pain, or arguments that cause you pain, I was thinking more along the lines of, when we have disagreements, we have to get to the point where we talk about the root of the thing. And talking about the root of the thing may be painful. That is what, like, maybe I am so sensitive to you walking out of the door when you get angry, because that's what my father used to do. He would slam the door. Now, it's not what my dad used to do, but there may be something connected to that. And instead of arguing and fighting about it, we need to talk about it. Well, I feel this way because it makes me feel abandoned. And I feel abandoned because, and once you get down to the root of that thing, it's like getting a splinter in your finger. You can take out what's on the surface, but until you get down into it and pull out, pluck it out, it's still going to hurt, and it might get infected, and that's the same thing with relationship.
Exactly.
So that's the kind of pain I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So steps was, don't take things personal. Be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Talk about your feelings. Ask for help from those who have been there where you are and have overcome.
Yes.
And avoid arguments that can pull triggers.
Yes.
How to resolve conflicts in your marriage without hurting each other.
It's very possible. We do that now. We had a little challenge this weekend with a little miscommunication. And I don't know about you, but for a moment I was like, oh, we don't have a fight. I don't want to fight. I told people we won't fight no more. No, we don't. I got to hold fast to that. So, okay, let's talk about this thing, because we had a miscommunication. I was like, it's date night. I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight with you. I just want to have fun.
And in the past us, like years ago, that would have been over. It would have been over. But we got past that little hiccup.
That was early in the day.
One of the best days ever.
Yeah, we called
it. We dealt with it.
We dealt with it right there.
Yeah, right there.
Right there in the public.
Yeah.
We're just having a conversation. And it wasn't like arguing. We were just having an exchange. It's like, wait. I don't understand what you're saying. Well, I'm saying this. Well, I don't think you really understand. Okay, well, listen, this is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, are we okay?
Yeah.
You ready to go in the movie? Yes. And then we talked about it afterwards. Are you good? Well, my feelings were kind of hurt when you said, well, you said this. I said that to you. Mm-hmm. I didn't mean to say that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we went on instead of like, well,
you know, drive, turn the music up.
Right. And we know that's what we do.
No, but and practice what we preach, teach, encourage you to do. Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Doesn't mean the weapon doesn't form, but it doesn't prosper. Amen. We don't take the invitation.
Amen. So close out, baby.
We return to sender. Father, I thank you. Mm-hmm. I want to pray right now for those that are married, that are in relationships that are having challenges. Mm-hmm. I want to pray, God, that you help both the husband and the wife to understand that the goal is for them to be together in unity, that they are put together so that they can build together. They're put together so that they can be unified, so that they can grow. And God, I just ask that you would help them to see themselves when they argue, to understand that they shouldn't take things personally. And when they are hurting, to be able to have the safe space to tell their spouse, I feel like this when this happening, when this happens, not you this and you that and you always, and all the negativity that is meant to tear them apart. Help them to know, God, all those that are listening, that it's possible to have a relationship full of love, mutual respect, honesty, honor, and companionship and joy. And Lord, I just ask that you would do this for all of them, that you would bless their union, God, and that you would give them to know that you are the author and the finisher of their faith. And also, Lord, you're the author of marriage. I thank you, God, that you do that. And I ask that you would bless them, that you would keep them, that you would make your face shine upon them, be gracious to them, and give them peace. And we ask all these things in the name of Jesus, we pray. And we will see you here again on Couples Pursuit Live. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye.